Hey, you're in the mix with the Vibrant Mix with Tasha, Tamiko, and Fred. I was about to say where we used to broadcast from, but tonight is our first show from our private studio at TLC. TLC Talk Radio. I'm laughing because, of course, our boy Fred always has to distract me with some ignorant picture.
Yes, sir.
What's up, homie?
What's going on? I like our new digs.
Listen,
I like this.
I'm excited. I'll fix all the tangled up spaghetti wire
No, that's
soon.
all good.
But you
But you got to make some spaghetti next time.
I was gonna ask you for our next taping to buy some chicken.
Oh,
Because
well,
we'll have a very special edition of a Vibrant Mix that will come complete with the video.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yeah, so we are here live in our private studio here at TLC Talk Radio, and we are really excited. We're missing our homegirl Tamiko.
Hey, Tamiko.
Hi, Tamiko. We miss you as always. Like, Fred doesn't pick as many fights with me, but he starts stuff.
No, I don't start.
Yes, you
do. I pick out stuff and I say something, and then she doesn't like it, and then there we go.
Again, you started it. That's how you feel?
Hey, but that's my girl. I got love for her.
Absolutely. That's our girl, Tamiko. So today was an interesting day, and as you may have heard if you've been reading our Facebook pages or checking us out on our website, we are going to a podcast version. So, yay. We're not necessarily live. You're listening to a recorded version of a Vibrant Mix. So, did I say live at the beginning?
You said live, but I mean, we're live talking.
Yeah, I'm probably going to edit that.
Yeah, well.
It's probably
live.
That's probably a lie. So today we got a new president, and of course this is a podcast, so you'll be hopefully used to the idea. And I think that we've talked about it before. We may or may not agree with Trump and his, views and policies and ideas, but I do think. So I know people are going to roll their eyes. I do think he deserves respect just as a president.
I agree with you.
I didn't want people to feel like, oh, well, I ain't calling him my president. That's fine if that's how you feel, and you're entitled to that. But to me, it's the same kind of vitriol that was expressed for President Barack Hussein Obama.
Type of what?
Vitriol.
All right.
Remember I said my parents mortgaged the house for my degrees.
I understand.
They did. So the same kind of venom. How about that?
There you go.
There we go.
I got that.
Same kind of.
I learned that on the cartoon.
Same kind of crap that people gave our 44th president, and I don't think that it's okay to disrespect the office. I know a lot of people will agree, a lot of people will disagree, but I just couldn't believe it. So, I work at a school where we teach our students how to be unbiased members of media. What you think of Mr. Trump is irrelevant. You are going to watch this coverage. You're going to analyze this coverage between stations, and you're going to give us some reporting about it. And you're not going to say anything about what your beliefs on him are, unless you're writing an op-ed piece, and you'll do that in your podcasting class. So this is not the time
you
for it.
You are reporting what you see.
That's it. And so, the same thing kind of applies as far as I was concerned. Just, all right, let me see. But literally, when I was watching it, I was going, oh, this is really happening.
Yeah.
What, were you watching it at all today?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it. It was, it's funny how when you watch the, now we've watched, I don't know how many inaugurations.
I haven't watched any.
Oh, okay. Well,
Don't worry about that.
But anyway, for me, to see the same setup, them going down that long staircase they go down before they, enter outside. And it's like, it happens every 4 years, but it seems like it's every other year, just the way it is. But it didn't hit home until President Obama came out, and him and the former First Lady, I can't believe it's the first time I said that, him and the former First Lady came out and sat on the other side.
Yeah.
Versus the side we were used to them sitting on.
On our left, their right.
Right. And then to see Vice President Pence come and not shake their hand, when he came out.
So wait, did they extend their hand and then he rejected it? Or?
You know, on that same side is where they have all the former presidents.
Okay.
So there's President Obama, President Clinton, President
Carter.
Bush, President Carter. He went and shook all their hands. They're sitting behind Obama. He went and shook all their hands and then went right over to the other side. Mm-hmm. You know. So, you know, I thought
Classy.
that was kind of crazy. And then when President Trump, you got to get used to that. President Trump came out, he shook everybody's hand. He came and hugged President Obama and Michelle. And, you know, he did, you know, all day he was doing what he was supposed to do. When they went to the White House, when they showed that, you know, they brought their gift, him and Ivana.
Coffee ceremony that they
that they have. That was very brief.
Well, maybe they're not coffee drinkers.
Well, you know.
I'm kidding.
But it happens. But it was, like I said, at that point when he sat on that other side, I'm like, it's over.
Yeah.
This is real, you know. But, you know, like you said, it's about the respect factor. I respect him for having the presidency. I don't agree with him. A lot of the stuff he say is stupid to me. His policies, you know, aren't always up to par. The people he's picking for his cabinet positions are dumb. But, you know, that's just me. But
did you just call them all dumb?
Right. I'm not one of your students. So I'm biased.
Clearly.
So, but like you said, I respect him for having that office. And he is President Trump. He is the president of the United States. So I will give him, like you said, that respect that a lot of people weren't trying to give President Obama. And no matter whatever you felt about him, you still have to give him that respect, whether it was a racist non-respect or whether you had legitimate beef not to, you know, like him, you know.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can this is the part that drives me bananas. Mm-hmm. And this is whether we're talking about presidential elections, gubernatorial elections, local elections, Facebook followers.
Right.
Why do we have to be so, again, venomous?
Right.
When we're disagreeing? Like, why can't we disagree without calling somebody a fat pig?
Yeah.
Or, you know, you crazy mofo or whatever?
I think sometimes it's not being able to deal with emotions. It's not, you know, sometimes when your voice isn't heard, you have to come out in a different way. And sometimes that way isn't always positive, you know. So sometimes people don't know how to handle that. You know, it's no different than blowing up, you know, at your mate when you've been stressing and you don't know what the hell's going on, and all of a sudden you just blow up because you haven't dealt with the stress you're going through. So, you know, sometimes it goes like that.
Yeah, that's not my story, but okay.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I recognize quickly when I'm cranky.
Yeah.
And then I try to exit the situation.
Right. But everybody doesn't deal with their emotional side.
Yeah.
As well as others. You know, like you said, I know when I'm upset. I know when I'm getting to that point where I need to get away from people.
Mm-hmm. I need to go to sleep like any baby.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And then some people just, you know, act upon it and they don't realize what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, like the people in D.C. throwing bombs.
Oh, my God.
You know, it's
you can't do that. Well, I guess you can
if you can if you want to.
But this is a bad idea.
This is not the greatest of ideas. But, you know. But what I was waiting for, I was in the barbershop today.
Oh, boy.
Inauguration's on, it's after the inauguration. And they're showing, you know, the disruption in the streets of D.C. and all that kind of stuff. And this is Fox News that they had on. Well, it was Fox Channel, but, you know, they're showing the Fox News coverage. And
the national coverage.
The national coverage.
Okay.
And at no time did I hear the words when they were talking about the protesters, hoodlum,
thug,
you know, whatever. Animals, you know, whatever. Impoverished, however they want to name it. Dealing with all of these.
Those code words for N-words.
For N-words, right. Because most of the people you saw out there were white.
I saw that. That surprised me. Not because I expect people of color to riot. I just didn't expect the riot at all. I expected protests. I was just kind of like, oh. Well,
I think the thing about it is you have a lot of mad white people that Trump is in office. Yeah. You know, and because I won't say the smart white people.
Yeah, don't do that. If you wouldn't alienate our listeners,
I don't want to
I'd
alienate our
appreciate it.
listeners. But the smart white people who
Really?
listen to Trump and understand what this man Trump was saying and understand like he's stupid, But, again, I'm biased.
I can't remember which television commentator. I can see his face. He's an NBC commentator, but he made an excellent point.
Black or white?
He's white. He said, and this was before, it was right after Mr. Trump was named president-elect. He said, there was a lot of movement. I'm paraphrasing. There was a lot of movement in, different areas, and Barack Obama was able to garner support, in a way that was energizing. But there were a lot of people who did not share the views of Barack Obama, who didn't feel represented twice. And so then they came out in droves. It's kind of like the opposite of what happened when President Obama was elected. That you had, the people who were pessimistic about, the election process. And they said, wow, here's an opportunity for hope. We've been underrepresented for a long time. And so maybe this is our shot.
And it helped that the president was bad.
Yeah, it did help.
Yeah.
That his track record, President Bush's track record, it energized people who felt their voices had not been heard. So conversely, the same has happened. These people who are pro-Trump, and they may or may not agree with everything he says. Like, I don't think anybody agrees with everything anybody says, unless you're just a follower. But they felt like he was the best representation of their long unheard voices. Now, some of you are going to be sorely disappointed because you have effectively voted against your interests. And you will find that out soon enough. It is what it is. Yeah. However, I'm not a person who puts a lot of stake in the national spotlight. I'm not saying that those policies don't affect me. I'm not, naive enough to think that. But I do know that the most effective change is going to come at the local level. So when we talk about, the Department of Justice report on the Chicago Police Department, that immediately impacts me, right? So then you have, the gubernatorial. We still don't have a budget here in Illinois, and I live 5 minutes from Indiana. If I had known, goodness, because I mean, just be mad at me, Illinois politicians. I do all of my shopping in Indiana because they seem to understand, how not to tax me out of all of my goods.
Right. And still have money and still have a budget.
What? Check that out. Indiana's budget is so tight. Some of their advertisements take shots at Illinois. Right. Like literally it says Illinois at Texas.
They have advertisements in Illinois.
Right.
Come to Indiana.
It's hilarious. Yeah. So, yeah. We went off on a tangent, but that's what we do here at the Vibrant Mix.
It's a mix.
So I think that we have to look at the big picture. Your life is going to be, and our friend Jason Palmer posts it all the time, your life is going to be determined by the decisions you make. And I'm not saying throw state and national politics out of the window. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that what are we doing locally? What are we doing personally to improve our own immediate situations? And then we can build a community and build communities and build, larger networks until we get to that level. Right. I think that's important.
Basically, what are you doing to help yourself?
Yeah. God bless the child that has his own. I ain't saying that, know.
But I still need $5.
I might. If you left your birthday card here last week, and if you open it, you'll find some more than $5.
Okay. The rest of the show is yours.
Did you just call leave?
I gotta put some gas in my car.
Listen.
Some of that Indiana gas.
Right, because you're that close, you may as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a wait-and-see attitude, much like the Department of Justice report that we're going to talk about.